Hello and welcome to this YFC podcast, which will give you more insight into YFC Agri so that you can find out what it's all about. My name's Ben Eagle and I'm joined today by current Agri Chair, Tom Hope, and current Agri Vice Chair, Sammy Allen. Tom is a Reading University agriculture graduate and an agronomist by profession. He's also a former Somerset YFC County Chair and plays an active part in his family's Somerset arable farm. Sammy graduated from Harper Adams with a degree in agriculture and is currently a trainee farm business consultant, as well as playing an active part in her family's mixed Nottinghamshire farm, comprising pigs, sheep, and arable enterprises. Tom, Sammy, thank you for coming on to tell us all about YFC Agri. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Ben.
Good.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Super. Tom, do you want to kick us off straight away and just tell us what YFC Agri actually is?
Yeah, so YFC Agri is obviously part of the National Federation of Young Farmers. It's one of our steering groups, Agri standing for agriculture and rural interests. So we sort of try to represent our members as best we can on the sort of agriculture and rural interests affecting them, and try to be the voice in the industry for the sort of younger generation, I guess.
Perfect. And why did you want to join the Agri Committee and get involved?
I've just wanted to try and make a difference. Sometimes people living in rural areas don't quite have the same opportunities that people in sort of more urban settings might have. And then as well as that, just got a real passion for agriculture and pushing agriculture forward as an industry, hopefully, and getting more young people into it, because I just think it's a brilliant industry.
Super. What about you, Sammy?
Yeah, so similar to Tom, really, always had a passion for agriculture, living and growing up on a farm, but also as the next generation of farmers and sort of young professionals, I think it's important that we get our points across to the people that matter over in Defras, and also working with other industry groups. We do quite a lot of work with the NFU and such like, so it's great to do a bit of networking as well.
Yeah. And on a very unscientific scale of 1 to 10, how positive are you for the future of food farming in rural communities? Tom, do you want to kick us off on that one?
Yeah, I'd go for a 7.5. I'd say I'm fairly positive, because I think that agriculture, sort of food farming, and rural communities just in the past are all very adaptable. I think there's definitely some change ahead, but I'm hoping that we can adapt and sort of prosper in it, but not any more than a 7.5, because there's definitely, with change comes uncertainty. It's probably one of the biggest worries. I know we've done a survey last year as an organisation, and that was definitely something that came up, is the sort of the worry that uncertainty is sort of causing.
Sammy, are you similarly generally positive?
I think I'm going to go a bit controversial. I'd agree with Tom on the food and farming side, but I think the rural communities, I'd say a little bit less positive. Okay. There's quite a few people coming in from towns and cities that don't quite understand the rural life as much as we do as farmers, and some of them have quite loud voices and like to be heard. So yeah, I think there's some more uncertainty around rural communities, and especially sort of around me near Nottinghamshire, there's a lot of industrial sites going up, and that takes out of your rural community quite a lot.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, there are a lot of changes happening at the moment, and due to happen in agriculture over the next decade. From your perspectives, what does Defra's ambition for farming look like, and do you think it's practical and achievable, Tom?
I think it's very ambitious. I think it shows some good ambition, but I do slightly wonder if they're trying to do everything in one go. But at the same time, I think it's commendable how ambitious it is for sort of changing agriculture. I think sometimes I'd like to see slightly more direction towards food production as well as the environment. Sort of, I really like the term sort of the win-wins for the environment and for food production, which I think there are a lot out there, and there's a few the policies sometimes seem to come across that it's one or the other, which I don't think is necessarily the case.
And talking of ambition, Sammy, the YFC AGRI ambition document recently set out some areas of key interest and concern for YFC members in terms of the future of the countryside, from rural housing and the future of county council farms to connectivity and farm safety. If you could only pick one of these sort of topics to talk about, what would be your top rural issue and why? You've already alluded to what urban people say moving into the countryside and some of the issues that maybe generates.
Yeah, so I think I would still pick up on that, the future of the countryside. There's, like I said before, there's industrial units and stuff sticking up everywhere, which doesn't only ruin your views, but also has an impact on the wildlife, which is something that as DEFRA and as farmers, that's something we're trying to keep and also grow the wildlife really. And there's a lot of little things, over lockdown in winter when people couldn't keep to the footpaths, which will have had a great impact on wildlife. Not only did it look awful when all the footpaths were muddy and they were walking all over fields, but it does have greater impact. So yeah, I think the future of the countryside is something that I'd be a little bit more concerned about.
And obviously, you talk to a lot of YFC members. What's your general sense of how younger people see DEFRA's outlook? I know that Tom was talking a bit about that, but yeah, DEFRA's outlook for the industry over the coming years.
I think young people will be quite optimistic on DEFRA's outlook, but I'd say also concerned. Like we said earlier, they're trying to do a lot over a short period of time really in the farming calendar, and yeah, there's a lot of change going to be in this transition period, and if they pull it off, that will be great, but there are a lot of things that could also go wrong during that transition phase.
Sammy, what do you think the situation is for the industry in terms of new entrants at the moment? Let's talk about the new entrant scheme, for example.
So I think it's quite difficult for some people who aren't in farming at all or haven't really got a background in farming or any family in farming. So it's quite difficult for those to get into the industry in terms of getting established on a farm with their own land. So there is a lot of work going on with the new entrant scheme. Hopefully this will give people the sort of financial input that they need to get started and established, but also some mentoring, because it's all right giving a new entrant some money to go farming with, but they might not know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're hoping for anyway, but there's still quite a few unknowns with it.
Let's turn towards NFYFC itself. What does Young Farmers itself mean to you, really? Specifically, the National Federation, and why has it been important for you personally, Tom?
I just think it's a brilliant organisation from sort of the real grassroots level all the way up to the more national level. It's given me a huge amount of confidence, vastly improved my public speaking, which is a skill that, as you know, comes in handy in all forms of life, and up to the national level. That sort of filters down from there through competitions, sports, and hopefully through YFC AGRI as well, back down to the grassroots members. So hopefully they're getting as much out of it as I have in the past, which is what everyone sort of in the organisation wants, I think.
Yeah. So YFC is really inclusive, isn't it? And everyone is literally welcome to come to meetings. But for anyone listening, because there might be people listening who aren't members, but are interested in getting involved, can you just talk us through the process of maybe joining a local club and ages and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So Young Farmers runs from 10 up to at present 28. We've actually increased the age slightly for the next 2 years to see how that gets on. And the best way to get involved is to get in touch with your local club and get involved with that. But then if you've got an interest in the agri sort of steering group and really making a difference to the agriculture and sort of rural communities in your area, get involved with YFC AGRI as well. In the past, it's been sort of more closed, sort of local reps, but now with the wonders of Zoom, where we meet generally, all young farmer members are welcome, really, and please feel free to get involved, because the more the merrier, and the more views that we can have, the better that we can represent our members, basically. So everyone's welcome.
Let's think a bit about the future of young farmers, I suppose. Let's turn to that. What about YFC members, and what do you think that they want from NFYFC in the future?
Well, I think times are definitely changing with obviously now we've had so much over Zoom and things, but I think young farmers are just looking forward to now getting back to sort of slightly pre-COVID times when they can meet up, socialise. I think that's one of the most important things about young farmers.
Yeah, big time.
Rural settings are such a sort of isolating place, really. So being able to meet up and go for a pint, or go and have a look around a farm, or go and play some sports. There's so many varied activities. I think young farmers are looking forward to getting back into that, whilst also sort of changing things up potentially, and looking at what else they can do to sort of keep the organisation going.
What do you reckon, Sammy?
Yeah, I think well, we're all like-minded people, aren't we? And as Tom alluded to, I think we took things for granted before lockdown, that we got to meet up and do everything that we could. And I do feel sorry for those that have missed out in COVID times. But going forward, I think young farmers will do great things, and we always have. Supporting charities is one of the things that we love doing, and we get our names out there. So I think the future of young farmers is definitely bright.
Brilliant. Let's talk about leadership, and leadership in general, I suppose, just to start with. What is good leadership to you, and what kind of leadership will be required in the coming years as we face the various challenges ahead? And that could be leadership on lots of different levels. What do you reckon, Tom?
Yeah, so I think leadership sort of from young farmers and in the agriculture industries, extremely important, especially in the coming years with the various uncertainties, like I alluded to earlier. I think good leader leads from the front in actions as well as what they say, and sort of really shows people, is hopefully a really good example to those who are sort of following them. And I think it's, like I said, really important that we have leaders sort of in our industry and in our organisation as well, which I know we will, and that's everybody. I'm not even just talking about national level. I think even more important, really, is sort of people who are chairman of their local young farmers clubs.
Absolutely.
Who can sort of pick out the people in the club who might be struggling a bit, check they're doing okay, and also notice where people might do really well in different competitions and things, and push them forward and encourage them to better themselves, and then they might become leaders of the future as well. So I think that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. I mean, Sammy, do you think that YFC is good at actually fostering leadership?
I do, and I think it brings out the natural leaders as well. Even in just a small club, you can pick out, having been in my club for about 10 years, you can see even when the younger junior members come in, you can pick out the leaders that are going to sort of take it on in the future.
That's interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
There is a huge amount going on in the world at the moment, and it can sometimes seem a bit overwhelming. What advice would you give anyone listening if they really want to make a difference, however small?
So that's really hard.
Yeah,
I think I would just say get involved with a local group. Whether it's young farmers or something else you're passionate about, however small you may think you are, when you get in a group, you're actually quite forceful, and you can be a force to be reckoned with when you get your heads together and you're all like-minded people.
Great advice. And Tom, we'll give you the final word.
Yeah, no, I'd agree completely that concentrate on the small things, because you might think they're tiny, but every little thing really does make a difference. And then you start enjoying how you're making a bit of a difference with the smaller things, and you start building up momentum and make even more of a difference as you keep going. Just a bit of passion, I think, goes a long way. Whatever you're passionate about, you just believe that you can make a difference, I think.
Well, I think that is a really positive way to end this. That is all we have time for. But a massive thank you to Tom and Sammy for coming on to talk about some of the things that they're discussing at YFC Agri and telling us their perspective on the current challenges and opportunities that farming and the countryside is facing at the moment. Please do share this podcast on your socials and tell other YFC members about it. A date for your diaries to hear more from Tom and Sammy is the online YFC Agri Forum that's concentrating on the many changes we're experiencing. Are You Ready for Change? It takes place on Wednesday the 27th of October at 7 o'clock in the evening, and guests include Defras Future Farming and Countryside Programme Director Janet Hughes, NatWest's Director of Agriculture Roddy McLean, and Farmers Weekly Editor Andrew Meredith. Details for registration will be widely advertised, and Tom and Sammy are looking forward to hearing from you and sharing an evening of discussion with you in October. For now, though, that's it from us. Thank you very much for listening. This podcast was presented and produced by Ben Eagle for the National Federation of Young Farmers Clubs. It featured Tom Pope and Sammy Allen and was supported by Defra.